Item number 3, previous minutes. So the minutes were sent out last week. Are there any revisions or corrections to the minutes? All right, seeing none, the minutes have been approved as distributed.
Jorge,
Yes. Oh,
I
go for
don't
it.
believe they were sent out last week. But that was because it was still a problem with the pulse.
Very good. We'll discuss that general discussion, or is that part of your report when we're meeting with
We can talk about it in general discussion if we need to.
Very good. All right. Sounds good. So the minutes didn't get excuse me, sent out, so that way the campus knows as well. So I'll move on to reports. We have some interesting stuff, I suppose. All righty. So for my report, it'll be similar to Elliot's. I'll go more in depth on my committee and what my committee did, which was a learning committee. Because we went to the Board of Trustees meeting. It was Mackenzie Rizziter, who is the president of CAB, Elliot, and myself. So basically what my committee brought up was that we, as a school, were granting emerita status to Professor Patricia Calkins. That just means it's like an honorary title for exceptional work that she's done in the school. She's been here for a very long time. So yeah, it's people that have been with the institution long. And then there was 2 sabbaticals that were granted for next semester. One of them is a whole year for Professor Mimi Kamer. So it'll be a 4-year sabbatical. And for Professor Livingston, I do not know their first name, but it's the spring of 2022. And yes. There's some discussion about payments and whatnot, but at the end of the day, it's a very vital part of having sabbaticals for professors, as they need their time off to reboot, to get more research, to be able to provide us with quality content. Because if a professor isn't constantly getting educated the same way we are, we're not learning the things that are up to date. So that's good to see. Yeah, and then my committee also talked about our second and third year retention issue. It's a very vital part of having sabbaticals for professors, as they need their time off to reboot, to get more research, to be able to. That was a little weird. Sorry. The thing just said what I said. Anyways, about the second and third year retention and how they're addressing that as well, because we have our first to second year isn't as bad, but where we struggle more as an institution is the second and third year. So from going to sophomore to junior, so they talked a little bit about that in my committee, and I reckon they talked about that in the executive session, which is when we're not there. So yeah, that was the report basically from the committee, because it's basically like us. We have subcommittees that meet and then all come together in the board meeting, and yeah. But yeah, other than that, Elliot will talk more about the board meeting, but is there any questions or comments with regards to my report? Alrighty, so move on to student body president, Elliot Meyer. Go ahead.
Hey everyone. So the first thing on my agenda, or my report for the agenda, is Board of Trustees. So I believe I updated you all last week on my committee meeting, which was the Resource Committee. Resource Committee basically deals with all financials that are relating to the college, and the primary part of what we discuss in my committee meeting, in the Resource Committee meeting, is brought up, and they discuss it at length during the actual Board of Trustees, which Jorge, Mackenzie Richer, which Jorge already mentioned, the CAB president, and myself attend. So we attended the full meeting last week, which was on Friday, and they discussed a lot of what I already told you about. So there was a bond, there's a bond issue that they voted on last week and was approved. That bond issue was for around 33 million. I'm not entirely sure how bond issues work. And if anybody's an economic expert, they could potentially explain it. Rich might have some more information. So we could pretend, if anybody's curious, we can ask him after this. All I know is that that bond issue was valued at around 33 million, and the money that was going to be raised by that bond issue would be going to a lot of the energy audit stuff that I explained to you in the last meeting and in the last couple weeks. A section of that energy audit is planned to go to solar panels on top of Kent and other various buildings around campus. Obviously, this relates to us because solar panels was a SGA project last year that didn't get finalized, didn't go through and finish. And I'm wondering, and we have discussion about that later in my report as well. But I talked a lot about it with several other names are big like leaders around campus. So Heidi Levine, I had a discussion with. President Kelleher last week, I had a discussion with. So we could talk about that later in my report. That was practically all that is of note to you all that was discussed during the Board of Trustees meeting. Jorge has a question, so we'll probably break. If you have a question, Jorge, right now, you can go ahead and ask.
Oh, and then Professor Kelleher also mentioned the student demands. So I think that was, she noted them during the Board of Trustees meeting. So I didn't say it, and sorry to interrupt, but yeah. So she is moving forward, like she did advise. She was helping us be a liaison between the students and the board, which I thought was good as well. So thank you, President Kelleher, for getting things, because we ourselves really don't speak at board meetings, but she can. So yeah. So sorry, Elliot, go ahead.
You're good. Good note. So yeah, that's basically all that was discussed. It was a very quick board meeting in terms of the ones that I've attended. It only lasted about an hour and a half, 2 hours. And typically we've been there until like 2 o'clock-ish, 3 o'clock maybe in the past. So, but they usually also start at like 11 o'clock. So there's a little bit of difference, but it went a lot faster than it typically did. And it was entirely on Zoom. So I think some of those older people might have been ready to get off. Apparently they don't know how to deal with Zoom calls. We're a little more acquainted with Zoom calls after our last semester. So that's what took place in the Board of Trustees meeting. Moving forward, I guess I have a lot of stuff. So if anybody has a question directly about the Board of Trustees meeting, we can break up my report right now. And if you have any questions, you can ask it. So go ahead and raise your hand right now and Jorge could call on you. Seeing none, moving on. So on Monday, Heidi, Jorge, and I had a meeting. And we discussed solar panels, which was obviously what I wanted to discuss about anyways. She informed me that for solar panels to move forward, we're going to need to talk to the new CFO. We talked to the old CFO last year, Kathy Hoke. She is either moving, I'm not sure if she's retiring or moving. So I'm not going to assume whatever, she's just leaving the college for whatever reason she is doing that for. And we're waiting on a new one. I believe that announcement should be coming fairly soon. That's what I was informed, but I don't have a date on that. After they get finalized in their position, they start November 1st. Good to know. Thank you, Rich. When they get finalized in their position, I'm going to reach out and hopefully get the solar panel project moving forward, but that's also going to be a discussion that we need to have between SGA. She also talked to me a little bit about the Campus Pulse. We discussed a little bit about that, and we're going to have a general discussion about that later, so I'll hold off on that. And then CMT student involvement. So we discussed probably 2 weeks ago when I first got put on a CMT that a student representative outside of SGA, it doesn't necessarily have to be outside of SGA, but it could be outside of SGA. That student involvement will be beginning hopefully soon. I'm going to send out a WUFU form. I've got that already in the WUFU document. I just need to send the email. And it's going to go to all students. Unfortunately, the only people that will be able to apply are individuals who have completed at least 2 semesters at Simpson, which means that no first years are allowed to be on CMT this year. So you'd obviously be able to do it next year if they do another CMT. But we kind of decided that it might require a little more knowledge about how Simpson operates, and that can only be done with experience that you get while you're at Simpson. So that was the rationale behind that. That will be going out hopefully soon. So And those are the three things that we kind of talked about with Heidi. Is there any questions about that? Casey, do you have your hand up?
Go ahead.
Yeah, I had to remember where the raise your hand button was. I know you mentioned you might talk more about your conversation with the Pulse later, but did you talk about why the DEI updates disappeared from the Pulse?
We did. I believe that was brought up, wasn't it? I know that we were talking, I talked about it with President Kelleher last week during our meeting, and I think I updated you all about the President Kelleher meeting. I had that on Wednesday morning. And at the end of the day, President Kelleher, I think, is the person to be talking to about the DEI updates. She told me that they've been meeting, but what President Kelleher informed me last week was those updates will be coming from the individual committees, so ACC, DEI, and Katie, and those will be going directly through the Pulse. The reason why they're not being updated recently, she was not sure. So that was basically what I got for an answer on that. It was brought up during that meeting. I don't believe I brought it up during Heidi's meeting, because at the end of the day, Heidi's not the one responsible for ACC, DEI, or Katie. I don't know if Kelleher is, but she technically is because she's the president. So that was that.
Very good. Are there questions? Pascasi, go ahead.
So have all of the DEI things been delegated to Katie or ACC DEI? Like all of them have been delegated to those two committees?
That was the what I got from it. That's not word for word for what she said. I've paraphrased, but that's the essential gist of what I've gotten is the delegation for those have been going to ACC, DEI, and Katie. I asked her if she's on that committee, if she attends regularly. She told me no. Is that correct, Pascasi?
From my understanding of the ACC DEI meeting I attended, she was supposed to be attending all of them. And we were working,
Okay.
The only reason I assume that is because we were working with, I always forget her name, the president's assistant, Kelleher's
Brenda Wickett.
assistant. Yes, we were working with her to organize and decide when all of the meetings were going to be. So I just assumed that that meant that she was going to be at all of them since she was the one organizing all of them.
And I could be wrong about that. I think she said that. Jorge, you were at the meeting. Did she say that she was planning on attending in all those meetings? Tatum might have some clarity on that as well.
Tatum, go ahead. Because I don't recall. I have notes. They haven't been the best.
Yeah, I'm on that committee, and the reason why she hasn't been at that meeting is because we haven't had a meeting yet. Our first meeting's next week. So there hasn't been a meeting yet. So
maybe what she was saying by that is she hasn't attended recently, and the reason why she hasn't attended recently is because there hasn't been a meeting. Okay, that could be the confusion there.
Very good.
Any other questions? Okay, moving on to Sustainability Committee recreation. So obviously I've talked about solar panels twice in my last two reports. That's because I would like to still do them. I think that's the intention from the entire SGA. We did a little straw poll, I think a week ago, or no, 2 weeks ago, because we didn't have a meeting. And that's what I was kind of getting is there's some support. We can potentially do another straw poll and general discussion regarding solar panels, if we would like to. If everybody's just nodding along with me right now. Actually, you know what? I've already decided. I've explained it to myself and decided. We'll have a mini discussion and general discussion about solar panels. We'll do a little straw poll to ensure that the support is still behind that. And with that information, I'm going to move ahead and create the committee per my power within the SGA Constitution to create any committee. So what I will do is first get that straw poll vote, and then we'll open it to a discussion where we can potentially nominate individuals, whether that be campus leaders, students, faculty, staff, any of those to this committee that we think will do a good job and create great projects for SGA to fund. So I've already decided that. I'm going to make an executive decision on that, and we're just going to move forward. If anybody has any questions, go ahead and let me know right now, or I'll move. Great. Okay, Moving forward, alumni board is this Thursday. Alumni board is basically board of trustees, but smaller. That's how I always kind of rationalize it. What it is a group of alumni who have been chosen to serve on a committee where they basically talk about what's going on campus, how they can advocate for Simpson just in general. It's a bunch of people that are really passionate about this college, which makes the meetings that I go to really, really fun because all of the members really enjoy being there. They're also typically a lot younger than the board of trustee members, so they sometimes get my jokes. So that's also fun. But yeah, that's going to be this Thursday. I've submitted them basically a brief history of what SGA has done in the past year. If you would like, I can send that all to you. It's basically a consent agenda that tells alumni board what we've been up to, what projects we have in store. I've updated them a little bit about our intention with solar panels. I've updated them a little bit about some of the capital improvement projects that members of Financial Advisory Committee have taken on. Updated them on the work we've done with DEI, so diversity, equity, and inclusion, specifically within SGA. And that would be spanning from June during our joint statement that we released, as well as the resolution that we released in early September, all that stuff. And I'll be talking about that in length at the meeting on Thursday, which is tomorrow night at about 6 o'clock. So then next week I can update you all on what took place during that meeting. I'm also going to be thanking them again because for all the members that don't know, we've talked about it a couple times, but they were the ones who half funded our chairs that we set around campus. We paid $5,000 for those chairs and they paid the other $5,000. I'm not sure what the status of their payments are because they were going to go in slower increments than we were able to do. So we paid the upfront cost and they're going to pay us back for that. Rich might have the actual information on whether or not they've actually fully paid for that. But they were half responsible for those chairs. And I think we all know that those were super useful this year. So I'm going to thank them again and let them know that those chairs are getting used on a regular basis. Rich said that we received half of the money back this year and the rest will come next year. So we'll get the other 2,500. So that will be what I will be doing tomorrow night. And I'll inform you next week on the events of that meeting. Any questions? Anything you'd like me to advocate to this alumni board as well? They fund a lot of projects around campus as well. So if anybody had a large scale project, that could be another idea that I could voice to them. Sweet, I'm seeing none again. So lastly, second to last. So project update. 2 weeks ago, last week in executive committee, we discussed projects that we wanted to do as an SGA, as a large scale SGA. So obviously Financial Advisory Committee does projects, but similar to the chairs, we wanted to do another project, or at least I would like to do another project. That's all of us together basically, and use some SGA funds that we have. So I discussed with the executives and the 3 projects we came as finalized projects that we saw were both able to be completed within this semester or in the long term this year were hammocks. So the original idea, I believe, was similar to the idea of hammocks in Kresge and Barker between those, the big wooden ones, but make them so they don't break. The other one was handicap doors, which we saw as easily able to be completed, and then water bottle fillers. I do not believe, the last time I checked the document that Casey wrote up for all the Financial Advisory Committee members on their projects, I don't believe I'm stepping on any toes with those. Is that correct?
That's correct. Those are separate and not overlapping with the FAC projects.
Great. So we're going to try moving forward with those. If there's any, I don't know if we have to necessarily say one or just all of them, because I think they're all really able to be completed. They're fairly simple projects, but I think will benefit students in the long run. So we can have a discussion about that if there's an intention to do so down in general discussion. Just let me know. You can raise your hand right now and we can move it down there. I'm seeing none. So we'll probably, Piscazi. Sorry, Jorge, I'm taking it down.
Sorry, I just had a comment. I thought we decided that the handicap doors was a thing that the college should do and not something that we should use like student money for.
I don't know if we did like make an official decision on that. If we want to talk about that in general discussion, we can definitely do that. It was kind of I don't really see the college doing it, to be honest with you, if we're going to be frank. I don't see them doing that type of project just because the funds are not there to do those types of projects. It's going to be larger scale projects. So that's that. We can take it upon ourselves as SGA. I'm still fine with like saying no to one of those and saying I'm not making like an executive decision on that. That's really guys up to you guys. So okay. And then lastly, CMT meeting update and tasks. So I attended a CMT meeting earlier this week, and at the end of the meeting, one of the members brought up how, I believe it was a faculty member, brought up how she's noticed in her class that there's been an increased level of stress that has been taking place that she's seen from her students, which I think we can all definitely agree with. There's increased anxiety around campus, increased stress, and that is completely a result of coronavirus. So we don't need to beat around the bush with that. But basically what I said was something that was discussed between Rich and I last week, which was that organizations on campus aren't really allowed to do large scale projects. And I think increasing their capability to do that while still practicing safe COVID restriction guidelines, like still following all those guidelines, we could still do larger scale projects. And Rich is fairly confident in that as well, I believe. So with that information, they authorized me to go to CAB and kind of like brainstorm some ideas or encourage them to brainstorm some ideas for larger scale projects that they might have not believed was possible under the Orange guidelines. So basically I went to CAB directly after that meeting on Monday and discussed with them about the potential possibilities for doing larger scale projects, excuse me. The two restrictions that CMT gave in terms of things that they would absolutely say no to for any of larger scale programs would be anything that eating and drinking is completely not allowed, as well as whatever program they did do would have to have capabilities of contact tracing. Those are the two only restrictions, so that's really good news. And I brought that to CAB, and I believe they have a couple of new events that they're planning on doing. Tatum might have more information, not that she has to share it, but might have more information on that. But anyways, that's some exciting news, and I wanted to share that with all with you. I believe they have something hopefully soon, so looking forward to that. But that's kind of where we're at with programs around campus. So great news. And that is the end of actually not the end of my report. Really quick. Lastly, senior class senator. I have contacted him and he's accepted his position. Enrique Idahan will be the new senior class senator. His picture is already up in the board on top of Kent. And on that note, all of your pictures are up on the board on top of Kent. So if you get some time and you want to go look at your picture and see maybe how good or bad the picture is, stroll on up to second floor Kent, and it's all sitting up there. So that's one of the earlier times we've gotten those pictures up too. I think they've probably been done by November every single year that I've seen, but I could be wrong about that. So yeah, that's it.
Right on. Are there any questions or comments for Elliot with regards to his report? All right, seeing none, we'll move on to Senior Class President Casey Spring. Go ahead.
So we have 2 new budgets in new business. And then the math club also requested money for their casino night event, but they already had almost $750 in their account. So we did not allocate any new money to them, but they're still able to do the event because they had that money left over. And then we also talked today at our FAC meeting about everybody's capital improvement projects. We'll probably have more detailed updates in the next couple of weeks, but everybody's making really good progress on them. So that's kind of what I've got, if anybody has any questions.
Very good. And any questions or comments for Casey? All right, seeing none, we'll move on to Junior Class President Tatum Claiborne. Tatum, go ahead.
I am meeting with Urban Dreams next week to discuss the specifications for mandatory bias training for campus leaders and exec boards. That was it.
Jorge, you're muted.
Yeah, can you hear me? Sorry, my Zoom is being
We can hear you now.
There we go. Sorry. I minimized the screen and it blew up on me. But yes, sorry. Very good. So any questions or comments with regards to Tatum's report? All right. We'll move on to sophomore class president Chase Henry. Chase, go ahead.
All right, so as you can see in the agenda, I attached the flyer that for the SGA rebranding. That was our main focal point for this week. Hopefully within the next couple days, my committee can get some posters hung up. Rich or maybe Tatum or Frank, do you guys know anything about the posters and this, like how that works on campus?
You just need a stamp at the front desk, I believe, right?
Yeah, there should be a stamp at the Kent front desk, but if there's not one, I have one in my office. You're probably gonna, in some buildings, depending upon the building, you're gonna want to check with the building folks to make sure they're okay with it. So like the music building is very particular about what posters go up in their building, or athletics may have very specific locations where they want posters put up. So ultimately you're gonna have to check with each building. But in Kent, you can probably put them wherever you already see posters at this stage of the game, but just get them stamped at the desk or in my office.
Okay, thanks. And then the second thing is we're still trying to find the best dispenser for putting them up in the restroom. So we're just trying to figure out the numbers of how many we'll need, and then just we need to make sure that we get a universal one that's going to last a long time. So that's all I have in report.
Are there any questions or comments with regards to Chase's report? All right, seeing none, move on to first year class president Will Keck. Will, go ahead.
Yeah, so also in the student organizations committee, we talked about highlighting like a student organization of the week every week. So we're thinking about making maybe a Facebook page or Twitter that people can follow that we can like post and advertise student organizations, along with, we talked about maybe getting like a bulletin board to put in Kent, or showcasing somewhere we can kind of have like a club wall and showcase all the different student organizations on campus and encourage people to get involved. So that's ongoing. End report.
All right, very good. Are there any? Tatum, go ahead.
This isn't specifically for Will, but it coincides with his report, so I'm going to ask it. Richard, how do we go about trying to put a bulletin board up in Kent? Like, what are those steps?
Which location? Where are you thinking about?
As of right now, we're looking by the mailroom on that right-hand side wall. So like you're walking, like the wall that the bathrooms share. We're kind of looking in that general area. And I also went in to pick up my mail this morning, and I meant to look and I didn't. So
we should be able to do something. I think we just have to work to see about size and what would fit, and whether there's anything behind that wall that would be cause for concern for us mounting something there. But for the most part, we should be able to fit something there as another opportunity to post stuff. So if there's space, I'm game with putting it up. The other locations that I know that there's space that we can put them up are like in the entryway on the east side of the building, because there's one big full-size bulletin board on that one wall, but there's nothing on the other wall. And we can probably consider putting some more up there as well.
okay, thanks, Rich.
You're welcome.
Very good. Are there any more questions or comments? Elliot, go ahead.
I forgot a part of my report that I needed to say. So are we going into other reports yet?
if there's nothing more for Will's report, all right. Seeing none, we'll move on to other reports. So go ahead.
Cool. Well, the only last thing I had to say was I forgot about the meeting I attended at 11 o'clock today. And that was about election follow-up event. So basically, it was between Heidi, myself, Ellie Olson, and Mara Bailey of the chapel. And Ellie Olson is part of counseling. I should put her title as well. And basically what we were talking about was an event that would take place before the election, where basically we would just have a bunch of people talk and try to, so what the idea behind it was, is that this election, I think a lot of people have a very personal connection to it in some way or another. And as a result of that, tensions will be high within the next 2 weeks. And we want to potentially allow an avenue to vent some of that stress and anger at potential outcomes of those elections, and kind of have a discussion dialogue type thing that would still be on Zoom. The event would be taking place at 7:30 to 9 o'clock. And what they kind of asked me this morning is, how many people do we think would attend that or would feel that that would be valuable? I gave them my perspective, but my perspective is also a poli-sci major who is interested in this to begin with, and I chose my major around that subject. So obviously I would be interested in doing something like that. But I don't know if a lot of other students that maybe aren't or are not politically connected, or like don't enjoy that entire process and stuff, would they find that valuable? Would they find that interesting enough to attend? So I would love some feedback to share with them about that.
Paskazi, go ahead.
I'm gonna be honest, as soon as you started talking, I had an existential crisis. So can we back it up a little bit to what we would be doing at the event? Because as soon as you said the election, I had a minor mental breakdown.
Give me one quick second. I got to search through my email. I have everything that's outlined in that event. So if there's anybody else that has questions or comments, please say them now.
There's no questions, I believe so. So go ahead. Yeah. Sorry, I'm just reading the comments, see if there's a question or anything.
We're all just explaining what countries we're going to flee to when all of our rights get taken away.
Oh,
I'm going to New Zealand if anyone wants to join.
Might I suggest that we keep all of this stuff as apolitical as possible? I respect that people have very strong views on this side or that side, and I'm not advocating for one side over another, but I think we need to make sure that we respect that there are a lot of people, and your role is to advocate for all students, not just one political affiliation or another. So just be cognizant of that as we're making commentary.
Thank you for that interjection, Rich. That is very important. And that is also something that they communicated during the meeting today. This is not just for Democrats. This is not just for Republicans. We don't care about the outcome. What we're really saying is that we feel like we want to be there for students, all students. So that's still going to be the priority. Okay, so this is what is going to take place at this event. It's going to be from 7:30 to 9 o'clock. So the people that are involved with this, besides myself, Ellie Olson, Mara Bailey, and Heidi Levine, are Seth Anderson, who's in charge of the Culver Fellows, and Kendra Bardwell, who is a political science professor here at Simpson. Basically, what will be taking place is realities and changes of what will occur during this election. So Seth Anderson's going to be speaking a little bit about that. Navigating polarized conversation and issues will be talked about with Kendra. Self-care in the midst of unknowns. Ellie's going to be talking about that. How do we hold ourselves, each other as a community? So basically, how do we still remain a community before and after the election, even though we have a lot of differing political views? In fact, I don't know if anybody is part of, so I'm in a political research class right now, and we're looking at the survey that was done right before the 2016 election. Fun fact, about 44% of the campus at that time identified as Republican. So I think that's one misconception that a lot of people make, is that a liberal arts college is 100% liberal. It is not. So there's going to be differing perspectives on campus, and you have good chance of meeting those. So that's just kind of where that one was coming from. They asked me to talk about student perspectives and voices, which is why I'm coming to you, kind of gauging what everybody would like to hear there. And then kind of talk about, I guess, my experience. I'm not really sure what they want me to talk about. I feel like the odd one out on that entire list, but I don't know. And then that's going to be basically it. I believe potentially Marcia or President Kelleher, excuse me, they have her as Marcia on this, so that's why I just said her name. President Kelleher will also be in attendance and speaking as well. So that's the content. Am I hearing that there is somewhat interest in this that I can bring back to them and say, this is a good idea? If I could get some thumbs up, that'd be really helpful too.
Hadley has a question. Yeah, let's go ahead.
Less of a question, more of a comment. I just think it'd be nice if maybe there was like a cookie or something, because I feel like we're all going to need a cookie after the election. And that was just my statement.
Unfortunately, I doubt they will have food because CMT would probably say no to that immediately.
Cookies to go?
What's that?
You can like wrap them and we can take them to go? Mark Green does it.
I have no idea. I can bring it back to them. Prepackaged is what CAs do, so I can see it too.
That's fair. Or we bring our own cookies. Facts. Maybe. All right. So, any other reports from any other committees? Seeing none, we'll move on to item number 5, old business. There's no old business. So move on to new business. Speech and debate mock trial. Casey, go ahead.
I moved to $48.64 speech debate trial.
Second.
Second.
Let's see. Give me a second. All right. So it's been motion. Never mind. This is where we have discussion. Sorry, I'm getting out of the mood. So discussion. Casey, go ahead, and then Maggie will answer your questions, and Pascasi as well. So go ahead,
So
Casey.
am I going first?
Yeah.
Okay. So this is specifically for the mock trial team to get apparel. So we're getting like hoodies, just like any other club or organization would, that says like Simpson College mock trial. So that's what the request is. The reason that the funding was increased is originally one member said they did not want one and then later expressed interest for it. So we had to add one hoodie to the total.
All right. Very good. So now, questions. So Maggie, go ahead, and then Pascasi.
Oh, I was meaning to hit the go slower button because my sound is being weird and I cannot hear very well right now.
Yeah, you kind of went off for a second, but do you guys all have the agenda by chance? Because the debate is up, the amount for the speech and debate group is up as well. But Pascasi, go ahead.
I just have a logistical question. So technically, it's labeled as speech, debate, and mock trial, but like this is solely for mock trial. So do all of those people that are on speech and debate, can we all not vote for it because the official title is speech, debate, and mock trial? Because that's a good number of people who cannot vote.
That might be a rich question, but I would say only people on mock trial, in all honesty, were lumped together in one title just for like the money the Board of Trustees donates to the organization, which if anyone is curious, since this is not like a uniform, the Board of Trustees won't pay for it. So this is the only group I'm a part of on campus where I don't have a t-shirt to say I was a part of it, which is why we're getting them. So I think the only conflict would be if you are a member of mock trial, but I think Elliot has something to add.
Elliot, go ahead.
I do. So if it's not directly impacting you, so if you were if it was like shirts that were going to speech and debate as well, then you would have to abstain. They're going to mock trial, I believe, and only, correct?
Yes.
You're good. And then also a separate point, but potentially valid, quorum is based off of eligible voting members. Because you're not eligible to vote and have to abstain, that quorum gets reduced. So.
Yes, indeed. Any other discussion? Tatum, go ahead.
Point of privilege.
Granted.
Thanks, bud.
Anytime. So it's been motioned and seconded to allocate $548.64 to speech, debate, and mock trial. All those in favor, please put the little check mark. All those opposed, put a little X. Faster is abstentions, and go slower is go slower. All right, so motion passes. So Latinos Unidos, LU. Casey, go ahead.
I move to allocate $614.96 to Latinos Unidos.
Second.
All right, it's been seconded. I think this is just for discussion. We don't vote on the second, so I believe. So Casey, go ahead.
So LU came back and asked for some more money to do their Dia de los Muertos celebration. They realized some of their supplies were going to cost more than they originally budgeted for, and they also asked for some storage tubs, so like plastic Rubbermaid tubs to store their supplies in versus cardboard boxes so that they don't keep getting ruined. And so that's what the money is for.
Very good. Are there any questions or comments or more discussion? All righty. Seeing none, it has been motioned and seconded to allocate $614.96 to Latinos Unidos. All those in favor, put the little yes. All those opposed, little X. Go faster for abstentions. Very good. Motion carries. All right. So now moving on to item number 7, general discussion. Point A. Elliot,
Technically,
go
we have
ahead.
to suspend the rules first.
Oh. Can I have a motion to suspend the rules?
As motioned.
All right. I think we do it on this one. So all those in favor, put little check marks. All those opposed, little X. There's no abstentions here. Nice. So yes, rule suspended. So we can do whatever. I was kidding. You can't, but you really could. In all honesty, I could allocate $1,000 to Elliot for being best president ever. But that's unethical.
No, you
Because-
cannot actually. But
I know.
thank you.
I kid. All right. Elliot, go ahead.
Okay. So after leaving last week's meeting, or not meeting, I guess it was a training, maybe would be a better way to use that. With Urban Dreams, Isaiah Knox asked me if we could have a little discussion about what we thought. So I said I would definitely like to do that because I would like to hear all of your perspectives on the presentation that we all heard last week. So this is kind of just an open discussion time. If anybody would like to go first, they can. If not, I would like to go. I can definitely go first too. I see Piscazi has her hand up. So if it's all right, Jorge, I can definitely call on him too, unless you'd like to do
Rules
that.
are suspended, so we good.
Okay.
I just had a question. Everyone who wasn't at the meeting has since watched it, correct?
I might have a question for Rich. Rich, did you upload that anywhere? I don't know if you.
Yeah, it's currently on Teams
Great.
in the SGA file.
I'm really bad at Teams, so I've still been trying to find it.
You know what? What I'll do, I'll go into Teams and I'll pin it to the top so that it should be easy to find.
Thank you, because I also need to watch that because I could not find it.
Yeah, I'll take care of pinning it to the top so that you should be able to find it.
If you have not watched it, could you please raise your hand up right now? Use the raise hand function on Zoom. Then we can know. Okay.
I feel bad. I really wanted to watch it. I'm just bad at tech.
Can I have a point of?
Granted, I don't even think you have to ask, I believe, but maybe I'm wrong. Come back soon.
Oh, well,
Go ahead. You're good. You're good. Jordan, you're good.
I will. XOXO.
So we can extend this to next week until everyone has watched it, if that would be more effective. Or we can just talk about it now, given that there's 5 people that haven't seen it yet. I would like everyone to see it, and I believe Isaiah would like us to reach back out to him and see if we can get some information to him about what we thought about the whole presentation. So I saw one nod from Piscazi. Would anybody else like to extend that discussion next week? Totally fine. Okay, we can do that. Definitely watch that in between now and next week. I've seen all the people that haven't watched it, so I'm going to try to hold you accountable. So please do it. I shouldn't have to hold you accountable. Just watch it. It's an hour long, I think, hour and a half. And it's actually really interesting. The 4 people that were in charge of it did a really great job. And I think it was a really good presentation. So not to say that there weren't problems that I think that we could address just as a group, because there were some things that personally I heard, and I was just like, interesting, because I've definitely heard some things this year from current students that would like directly contradict with what they specifically said. And I think we found one of those contention points during the actual thing. So that's a little fun part, that or Easter egg for you. Try to find that, but yeah, so sounds good. Okay, we can move on. Jorge, you probably don't need to call on me again, because we're just going to move to Sustainability Committee recreation. So first, before we do this, I would like to get a straw poll from everybody utilizing the yes/no function on here as to whether or not you would like to commit money to a solar panel project. That solar panel would be on top of Kent, unspecified money amount. Okay, I'm seeing 13. That's not everybody. Can everybody vote?
What are we voting on?
Sorry, did you just get back here, Jordan? We're voting on whether or not
I just got back.
You would support a solar panel project on top of Kent for an unspecified money amount. It's a straw poll. You were not actually voting. This is just
Right,
a yes no to whether or not you would like that project. So I'm seeing primarily yes. So that leads me to conclude that there's a strong interest in solar panels. Last year, we created the Sustainability Committee. That committee came up with ideas for sustainability projects. We happened to choose the solar panel project. The difference between last year and this year is we are basically all in support of a solar panel project. So I'm going to guess they're going to put most of their energy towards a solar panel project if we created it right now. So is there interest, do you think, and does everybody understand why we would create a sustainability committee instead of us just doing it? I believe the rationale behind it was we don't have the time and energy to devote that much to a solar panel project like that. It's a lot of money and it's a lot of time. And there are people that are very passionate about it on campus that would definitely take it over. So I see no discussion. So what we could basically move to is nominations for this committee in general. I looked everywhere and cannot find them who was on this committee last year. I looked through the SJ minutes in 2019. I found nothing. I don't know who was involved. Chase, were you part of the committee?
Yeah, it was me. It was Diana, myself, and then I believe Molly Fisher.
Do you know who the faculty and other people around campus were on that? I know Daryl Sasser, Professor Sasser of the history department was the chair of the committee.
No, when I joined, I was only in like 2 email chains, and then
Wasn't Amron Bourne a part of that as well?
maybe, I'm not 100% sure.
I feel like Amron Bourne was a part of that, and then I don't know if he ever was formally a part of it, but I believe that John Pauly was also a part of that. And for some odd reason,
I know Taylor Keitzer was as well.
Taylor was as well, and for some odd reason, I feel like Randy from Physical Plant may have been a part of that because some of this directly involves physical plant.
Did you freeze up, Rich? I didn't hear the end of that.
Randy from physical plant, I think, was
Gotcha.
the other one, just because I think of his role at physical plant.
Okay, so basically what we can do now is suggest members that we think are very passionate about sustainability on campus, and we can create this committee, invite them to be members of it, and basically that's where we go from here. So I'll open the floor to nominations of individuals you think around campus that would be good for this position. I'm going to personally nominate Wyatt. I can't remember his last name. It's like, it starts with an H. Wyatt, I don't know. I believe he's a sophomore as well. But he was very passionate about it and has already reached out to me about it. I believe he's also on Sustainability Club. So that would be an overlap that would be very helpful, in my opinion, to be on this committee. Heisterkamp, yes, that is it. Thank you. He's a CA, isn't he, Molly?
Do we pause live stream for nominations or only for voting? Just for voting, right?
I didn't hear that. My internet's been terrible, by the way. I'm sorry.
So are you for like voting for this?
No, just a question. We only pause it for voting, right?
We only pause it for voting, especially when it's a committee where I think that, like typically for faculty committees, I think for this one, we're typically kept it open.
Perfect. All right. Thank you. Any other nominations?
I'll nominate Chase Henry. Been on before. We'll do it again.
Chase, since you are here, do you accept?
I accept, and I'd also like to nominate Scott.
Scott, since you're also here, do you accept?
I'll accept.
Nice. Other nominations?
If it's all right with everyone in this group, the faculty around campus, I would be willing to keep the same if they're still interested in it. I can list those off to you once again. Daryl Sasser, he's reached out to me probably 3 times now about the Sustainability Committee. He's very passionate about environmental history. So I would love to have him as chair once again. In addition to that, John Pauly, who is I'm not sure what professor he is of some science. I know that for sure. Randy Rice, who's
professor.
in charge of the physical camp philosophy. So I guess it's kind of a science. I don't know. Randy Rice, who is in charge of physical plant. It's ish science, okay? Ish science, same as political science. It's the same thing. I'm in the same boat, so it's fine. I didn't know if anybody was shaking my head. Some people get mad about that. Taylor Keitzer, who has now changed from, she was in Res Life, she's now over in facilities. So her position's changed. She might be overloaded with work over there, so I can reach out to her and see if she's still willing. And that is it for faculty and staff, unless anybody else has an additional member they would like to do. Philosophy is the original science. I like that. I hope I didn't offend anybody by not saying that. Everybody gets offensive about sciences. Okay. Good. So I'm going to create that committee, email those individuals, and hopefully get that moving. They're going to probably present us with more than just the solar panels as a project, so we can take that and move forward with that. So, and then lastly, we've got 2 still. We're still making pretty good time, 7:55. Large scale CAB events. So this is going to be a wider discussion where you can voice your opinions on it. So we can open the floor now. Personally, I'm very excited about large scale events. I have a personal opinion that there's not a lot going on campus. As a result, people are not inclined to stay on campus. And because people are not inclined to stay on campus, they go to different universities like Iowa State, Iowa, and UNI, whether or not they declare that openly to anyone that does contact tracing or not. They go up there, they do that, and then they bring it back to campus effectively. So if we hosted larger scale events that are social events in a safe manner, emphasis on safe manner, that would influence them to not do those unsafe practices. So
and
that's my opinion on it. That's my 2 cents. We can open
And-
it up to the floor.
Before we get into the conversation, just so you know, I really want a frank and open and honest conversation about it. I think that I want to make sure that we're doing things that are right for students and are appropriate for students, but I also recognize there's a safety issue. I recognize that there is a health issue, and I want to make, I want to also make it clear that I truly believe that we have the capacity, and this is not to sway anybody in any stretch of the imagination. I do believe that we have the capacity to be able to do it appropriately and safely in any fashion. Now, that being said, no matter what the event, it's going to be, there's risk involved, no matter what it is, no matter how small.
What'd you say?
There's risk involved. Just to keep that in mind. But anyway, I'd love to hear what everybody has to say, and I'm happy to answer any questions too. Piscazzi, if you want to go ahead.
I am hesitant about larger scale events solely because we have had an increase in cases on campus. Like, I feel like give it a few weeks and like wait to see what happens. But like, if we go back down to like smaller amounts, I'm all for it. But I'm also concerned because like now that it's getting colder, one of the biggest spaces that like we could utilize is the gym. But I've heard that the athletic director is very against allowing people to use the gym for events. So then like I feel like every other place on campus to host like a decent sized event would, like, for me, be a little too close for comfort. Like Hubble is still like a little too close for comfort for me, just because I like it's in my mind. I don't know. There's a difference between Hubble and the gym in my mind, that the gym I am less likely to get COVID,
No,
even though it's probably not that big of a difference when you take into consideration how many people would be in the space.
Yeah, you're 100% correct. And so that for clarification, let me be clear of what I'm talking about in terms of large, right? I'm not thinking an event of 500. I'm not thinking an event of 300. At the maximum, it'd be somewhere between 150 and 200 people at the tops. And you're right. I would not feel comfortable putting that many people in Hubble. I wouldn't be comfortable in putting that many people in the black box. I would even quite honestly be hesitant to put that many people in the theater, which is the second largest space on campus. There's the only place in my mind really that would work is the field house. Now, I think that in terms of use of it, I think that while the athletic director may not necessarily be all for it completely, I think that there's a general understanding on campus that there's a need for something for you all because you've all been locked in your rooms. But there's also a need to understand that we got to be safe, which may mean, and the other piece that the athletic department is really trying to protect is that gym floor. And so I talked with Casey a little bit about this earlier today. There may be an opportunity for us if we're able to protect that floor. So essentially SGA funds some sort of floor covering in there for that wood floor, which would open up more opportunities for us to use it. Then it becomes a student space, but as well as an athletic space, because we're protecting their property, but we have more to go. Elliot?
So in addition to that, the AD of that was just hired, Keith Hackett is his name, is on CMT. And I'm fairly certain that CMT's power would overrule any AD decision that would be made. I think I can't be quoted on that, but and they basically were entirely in support of us doing larger scale events. And I did not hear any disagreement from him specifically. Obviously, I could have a discussion along with CAB. I believe CAB would be hosting that type of event, and we can talk with that and ensure that that is not the problem that means we can't do this.
Very good.
So I just want some clarification real quick about what we're talking about when we say large scale event. Like, is it like y'all sit in one space and we do something on our phones, or like what are we like doing here?
Well, so the realities are it's not going to, won't be a dance because that's not something that's realistic and feasible to do in a safe fashion. More than likely at this point, if there is anything that's going to be done, more than likely it would probably at best first be something relatively simple like a bingo. Now, there are a boatload of logistical pieces that would have to be put in place to make something like that happen. And, you know, it'd be very spread out. So 150 people spread out through all of the bleachers on that in that whole facility. You know, it'd be something like that. You know, I think that we could possibly host live entertainment, so like a comedian, but it would be at the most, it'd probably be put in the black box, but at the most people, it'd be 50 or 60 people. And the other piece that we would do is we would put a plexiglass shield around that stage. So we would basically box in the stage so that the artist is completely separate from the crowd, and the crowd would be quite a ways away. One of the pluses of Kent, because it's a relatively newer building, is that air handling, the exchange rate is significantly higher in that building than any other building on campus. So the air turnover in that building is significant. So we'd be able to manage it as needed, but you know, we'd obviously have to put some protections in place too to protect you all and everybody else. Maggie.
Okay, so I'm coming at this from two angles. The first angle is, oh, sorry, I tried to lower my hand. Someone did it for me. I have weak lungs. This is a respiratory pandemic. I'm seeing the numbers increase since we got into the yellow phase and we were more lenient, and I'm scared. I'm scared to be in a room with two people. I had like my classes, I had one guy in all my classes, and I was scared of him because I was like, at any given point, he could just give me COVID and I could just die. My lungs can't handle this. So for me, the idea of a lot of people is very scary. The other aspect that I'm coming from is my sister's a public health major, and she's always just yapping in my ear about Johns Hopkins and how they're teaching her all this stuff. And I think what she would say at this point is the people who are the issue will be an issue irregardless. They're still going to go party because they're not the ones who are trying to be safe. They're the ones who don't care. So we can do everything we want for students who want to be safe, but those large groups that aren't safe are still not going to be safe. We're not going to appease them until we give them a beer in one hand and tell them they can take their mask off at any given point. So I don't know if it's worth risking those of us who want to be safe for people who aren't going to come anyways.
And that's a fair statement. And I think that the realities is those students are probably also not going to come to any event we do because the restrictions are going to be so high. So it's basically, I think, agreeing with you. And from a health standpoint, I recognize that. And I think that's why I want to have these conversations and hear from people, because the last thing I think I want to do is alienate somebody because they don't feel comfortable at something. And, you know, there's going to be risk regardless how you look at it. But I just want to make sure that we create opportunities for those who are comfortable, but also still create opportunities for those who are not comfortable as well to participate. So I think that it wouldn't be a this or that. There's going to be opportunities on both sides of the issue. So, but I appreciate your statements there too, Maggie. Tatum.
Like as a member of CAB and like a student, I absolutely hate the idea of a large scale event. I have really bad asthma and a lung deformity. If I get COVID, 98% of a chance that I will die. And you know what? As fun as that is, I'm actually kind of happy right now. So I really don't want to go. And also I will have to go to this event regardless because I'm on CAB. And let me tell you right now, if I get COVID because of this event, I will raise hell. I don't think it's a good idea. And the argument like, well, people are going to other campuses. Okay, well, that's great for them, but I'm not going to allow us to turn our college into a human cesspool of ignorance. That's not a good look for us. Simpson is already in the news for bad things. And I think it's so stupid to Be like, oh, don't go to UNI. We're gonna have an event here. So if you don't want to get to UNI, just get it at Simpson. Like, I don't think it's a smart idea. Like, we're during a pandemic. Like, I get that people want to go back to normal, but like, we're in the middle of a pandemic. Like, normal isn't going to happen for at least the next 2 years. And like, people need to start coming to terms with that. And if they don't like it, they can go find something else to do and get sick.
You're correct. It's nothing is going to be normal for some time. It's there, no matter how we look at it, there's nothing that's going to be normal. And the other statement that Tatum said is correct too, that, well, there'd be students that were going there just for the pure enjoyment of the health or the fun of it, just to get out of their rooms and do something different. There are students like Tatum and about 7 other students that are going to be there busting their ass and in putting themselves at risk as well in order to provide entertainment for everybody else. So I think that we have to think about that, because they're the ones who are going to be there before. They're the ones who are going to be there after. They're the ones who are going to be picking up and cleaning up somebody's potential chew cup or whatever it is that could put somebody at risk. So we got to, there again, there's a boatload of things that before we would probably move too far down this road, there's a boatload of pieces that would have to be put in place. Piscazzi.
I'm gonna be honest, I don't remember. So just go to the next person.
Okay, Scott.
I think my only question is about like what sort of safety precautions there are at CAP events that are inside rather than outside. I'll be honest, I didn't go to bingo. I didn't know one comedian who came in. So I don't know what CAP events look like even outside. So if you could talk a bit about that, I'd really enjoy that.
The bar gets significantly higher for an indoor event. It would include, I mean, we'd map out the entire facility. It would be contact tracing. It's knowing every single person that's in the room and who is sitting next to that single person. It is cleaning the space before somebody walks in, because if we're doing, let's say for example, if we're doing a bingo in the gym in Kohl's, my guess is there's going to be a practice of some sort in there before we get access to the room. So we're going to have to clean the space before we start to set up for a CAB event, right? And so the space has to be clean. We are going to have people there to monitor people that are in attendance so that they are wearing masks and they have their masks on the entire time, so that they are not eating, they're not drinking, and that they're sitting where they're supposed to be and they're not shifting spaces. We have to come up with new protocols for how somebody claims a prize. It's a significant amount of work, and it's a significant logistical undertaking. But that being said, don't get me wrong, it's doable. It's just a boatload of work. And please don't, I don't want anybody to take that as Rich is trying to get out of doing work, because the one thing I would give anything to do at this stage of the game is to do stuff that makes you all have some sort of an experience that you all intended to have when you chose to come to Simpson, whether it was 4 years ago or whether it was a year ago. And so of anything, I want you all to have that experience, but I also want and respect that there are people like Maggie and Tatum who will not be comfortable in this environment and wouldn't be comfortable at it. But I also understand that there are some people that are sitting in their room right now and are just craving some sort of social experience that they're not getting. And so it's one of those things where I was telling somebody today, it's a damned if you do and you're damned if you don't. And it's really hard. And I wish I could say that I could make it perfect and make it so that nothing is going to happen, but there's risk no matter how we look at it. Hadley.
Okay, I'm back again.
That's okay.
So if I know they're obviously going to be limited. Like, it's not just going to be like whoever wants to come, you can come whenever you want. So like, how will you decide who gets to go to the events if more people sign up than the capacity? And then for the people that aren't comfortable, like physically coming, is there going to be like a Zoom or something that they can do to also participate in the event, even if they aren't comfortable physically being there?
Yeah, so like the physical space, it'd be a first come, first serve. Basically, we'd probably have to do some sort of a reservation. The For those who are not comfortable, yeah, we'd stream it and we'd make it available for those who are not comfortable coming to the event. Again, those are all the logistical pieces that kind of go with it too. Is managing the stream side too. But yeah, we would do everything in our power to make it as inclusive for the whole community as possible. Tatum.
Kind of going back to what you said after Scott's question, like as the person in cab who would have to be the person to be like watching everyone to make sure that they're putting their masks on, because I am the only person that has a stern enough voice in cab and doesn't care about people's feelings enough to be like, put a fucking mask on. That's a lot of work. And I haven't enjoyed one cab event this year because I've had to be that mean person the entire time. So like I'm a student and I'm paying for these events and I'm planning these events and I haven't even been able to enjoy one. So like, Rich, with this in mind, like I get that Mackenzie and everyone wants to do these things, but at the same time, like we are still students and we still have a right to like enjoy these events. And I haven't enjoyed one thing that we've done because I have to be mean the entire time. And as mean as I am, it's exhausting and it's not really my personality and it sucks and it's hard. So like no big events, please.
Yeah, there's nothing that's easy about anything that's going on right now. And it's just not. And it's not easy on the, I'm sure that the folks in religious life have the same experience where there is nothing easy and it's not fun on the planning side because it's hard and things aren't going the way you want them to go and people aren't attending or whatever. So it's interesting. Scott.
I think if we talk about the safety aspect of it, it sounds like what you talked about with pre-cleaning, making sure people are wearing their masks, having like making sure groups of people, if they are sitting in a group with their personal like family unit, whatever, that they are distant from other groups. It sounds like we're putting in fairly restrictive procedures to decrease the risk that comes with having a larger event, especially if it's on the inside. An important thing to remember, I think, is that risk consideration. And then an earlier thing that I believe Elliot mentioned, that if we're able to have events here at a much lower risk than would be having people going off to other areas where it could be a higher risk event, that would reduce the risk overall for everybody if we were here and we could do it safely. So that's all I have to say.
That's a fair statement. They are pretty restrictive, but again, as I said, there's risks no matter how we look at it. We are never ever, no matter what we do, and this is good, bad, however you want to look at it, there's no way that we'll ever mitigate 100% of the risk. But then again, let's be honest, there was no way that we were mitigating the risk when we were not COVID. Elliot, you have your hand up? Oh, wait for you? Okay. Maggie.
Yeah. So I will say from like I'm not on cab exec. I don't know how all that goes, but I work in Holy Grounds as an RLC intern. We have a security camera up in that space. Security walks through that space. Us interns walk through that space. And oftentimes I see students without their masks on. We tell them to put on their masks, but we all know that like the second the physical person leaves, even though there's a security camera, they take those masks off because they don't care. They're only going to put the masks on if someone is telling them right then and there. And so like if it's just Tatum, for example, walking around, the second she has her back turned, they're probably going to pull it down under their nose, pull it down under their chin, do something. Because if someone is not telling people like every single second to put their mask on, they're not going to care. And also, I'm scared of the gym just because I know one of those spikes may or may not have come from a certain sport team who uses gyms. I'm scared of sport people. I'm sorry. Y'all are athletes, but I'm scared of all of you now.
Yeah, The other thing that I think I want to be cognizant of too is because of the restrictions, I don't want an event to feel like a police state, because then that takes away from the experience as well. So there's that piece. Piscazzi and then Elliot. Is that okay, Elliot? Okay.
So kind of two things. The first is, I know that if, like, let's say there was a larger scale event and I was there, I'm all about student to student. I was about to say persecution. That's a terrible word to use. Student to student policing. There we go. On masks, because I will yell at literally anyone to put on their mask. So like, I think with more people there also might be more student to student policing of who wears masks. But furthermore, kind of like what Scott said, Rich is going to clean any space better than probably anyone else on campus. So it is probably going to be, like, cleanliness wise, it's probably going to be safer for you to be at one of the events than it is for you to go to your fucking class. So, because they do not everyone be cleaning them desks. So you're probably safer going to a Rich Ramos event than you are going to some professor's class in Wallace where those kids ain't cleaning the tables. So like, you're taking more of a risk by going to class than you are than going to the event. But like, also I understand how other people feel about being in spaces with lots of people. But just on the cleanliness aspect, you're probably safer going to an event than class.
I appreciate you saying that, Cassie. Please know that if we ever get to the point where we do a large scale event, I will put every ounce of energy into ensuring that it's as safe as can humanly be possible. That every amount of time, every amount of energy, whatever it takes, I will do whatever it takes to ensure that it's a safe event for the community. If and when we get to that point. So, Elliot.
And this might be, if that's all right with anyone, I don't know if Katie still has her hand up or
Yes,
not.
she does.
But we can try to wrap it up soon because we got some other topics
So
we need to
let's
talk
just
about.
finish after you, and then after Katie, we'll wrap it up.
Good deal. So basically what I was going to say is, at the end of the day, this was not something that I unilaterally suggested and went off of with my own ideas. CMT suggested doing this, and basically what I'm believing from that is that they believe that we could create an event safe enough that it's still capable of being done and underneath the guidelines. This CMT group is the same group that prevented us from going into red this entire semester, allowed us to get into orange, because effectively I'm going to credit the CMT with doing that. And they still feel confident enough to tell us that this is a strong possibility for us to do. And they also value the fact that student mental health is tied just as much social in their academic life, are tied just as much social as it is academic here at Simpson. So that's really important. And yes, so that's what I wanted to just get across. And at the end of the day, also, any event that is created from CAB that goes forward will be reviewed by CMT to ensure that they are still following any guidelines that we have currently in that are active. So it's not just going to be, let's have the event and there's no structure to it.
And also, so you know, I have a remarkably high standard of what I expect when we put on an event. For the last 30 years, I've been hired as consultants. I've trained colleges across the country. I've toured with national rock bands. I regularly get consulted and go out to California for 16 days to manage events for their safety and security. So again, there's a lot of experience that's going there. The other piece, so that you know, here in about 2 weeks, I'm doing a certification training for event safety and health that's presented 100% by health professionals for the event and meeting planning industry. So that'll be happening for me in the next couple of weeks as well, to ensure that I have a good understanding of what the expectations are moving forward. Katie, you'll be the last one.
Okay, this might be a really dumb question, but I just have been thinking about it the whole time. will the people who are involved in like the planning of these events and like the enforcing the rules and whatever, like will they be allowed to choose whether or not they do that, or is this kind of like a, if CAB puts on an event, does all of CAB have to do it, like, or will there be a choice?
They'll be able to choose.
Okay.
They'll be able. I'm not going. Yeah, Tatum. I am not going to force a person there if they're not comfortable in an environment. It does no value to us to do that.
Oh, then do whatever event you want to. Go off. I did not know that's how you felt on that.
No, I am not. If people are not comfortable being in a space, I'm not going to force them to be there, and we'll figure out how to make it happen. You know.
I
Now, I may,
very much.
if there are some people who'd want to help who are not a part of CAB who feel more comfortable to do it, like there may be folks around this table who are comfortable. So like Elliot may be comfortable, but I am not going to force anybody to do it. And if at the end of the day, that group says, we don't want to do this, I'm not going to force them to do it. I mean, it's no skin off of my back, and it's not going to hurt my feelings at all if at the end of the day they say this is not right for us. And as a matter of fact, I had that conversation this afternoon and yesterday afternoon. So there's that.
Okay, we're going to move forward. We could potentially postpone the projects discussion because it's 8:23. And I can give you just a quick update on Campus Pulse. Basically what was taking place, and I don't know if I already informed you guys of this last week, was that the Campus Pulse was not sending out our agendas. We were being, actually no, the Campus Pulse was not doing that. So all of our agendas get moderated before they send to a, Maggie has an announcement on something. I'm just reading the chat right now. But basically what was taking place was all of our agendas get moderated because we're trying to send to a moderated listserv. Basically they were rejecting all of them because they wanted our agendas to be on the Pulse. I strongly did not want them to be on the Pulse. I talked to Heidi and President Kelleher about that. I'm probably still going to reach out to Kathy Cole, who is the person in charge of the Pulse, to ensure that we don't ever get stuck on the Pulse, because I think one of the hallmarks and important parts of our organization is that we need to directly communicate to students. We are the Student Government Association, and each one of you are student representatives. To effectively communicate what we are doing on SGA, we need to utilize the SC Students Listserv at least. We also typically send it out to all of the faculty and staff as well. We can see about that. That's what some of the contents of this email will be. But basically, I just wanted to inform you of that. I do not believe it belongs in the Pulse. I also don't want to get stuck on the Pulse because nobody really reads the Pulse. And if nobody's reading the Pulse, then they're not reading what we're doing on SGA. And I'd like to think that we're doing important things on SGA. So that's where I thought, or my thoughts come from on that. We can have a discussion about it, but I don't really know why this belonged in just general discussion. Maybe, I don't know. What do you guys think? If you have anything on it. Good. So I'm gonna be sending that email soon. I'm not gonna say no to the entire Pulse, Piscazi. I think that maybe the Pulse does something good. I think that there are certain members of campus around here that get irritated with the amount of emails they get. I certainly don't, and I get over like 40 a day. So I don't know what they're whining about. But anyways, yes, I didn't know if that's what you meant. But okay. Yes, so that's my 2 cents on that.
All righty.
Okay. We'll move on to announcements, and Jorge, you can take back over. Thank you.
All righty, guys. Announcement. So the very first one I've got here is vote via, I don't know who put it, but good word of advice. Vote. Maggie, go ahead.
Okay, so we were talking about mental health bad. We all know this. You know who else knows it? RLC. You know what else they know? There was no fall break. So guess what we're doing for you all? Tomorrow and Friday, RLC is tabling. We made fall break in a box. You get a mug treat, some fairy lights, some other things. Come get it.
Where will you be?
Let me pull up the text.
All right. I put it in the chat whenever you can. That way but thank you. Hadley, go ahead.
This is just an announcement to anyone on campus. If you have found a medallion and you haven't turned it in, turn it in, because I've been looking all week and I want to know where they're at.
Facts. That's money.
One has been found, at least what we know.
Some little kid from Irving probably found it. Puskazi, go ahead.
The Iowa Democratic Party is bringing a Get Out the Vote bus to campus next Tuesday from 8:30 to 11. So you can there's a like voter activation like station there, and then they're also going to be handing out Biden and Harris merch. So if you want some of that, come over, bro.
Can you repeat that time once again?
8:30 to 11.
And then where's to meet?
It's in like do we call it the pavilion? That the part of in between Kent and Kresge where they can put down the little
Pedestrian plaza.
metal thingy. There
Pedestrian
you go, pedestrian plaza.
AM or PM?
Absolutely AM.
Hey, I don't know. Scott and then Elliot.
Hey, are we gonna do student conduct board stuff next week? It's a point of.
I'll answer that. No, we're doing it after this. We just have to turn off our live. That's why we suspended the rules early during the meeting. That was to move that to the end of the meeting so we don't have to turn off live and turn it back on.
Okay, I was completely confused why we suspended the rules in the first place. I probably just zoned out. So thank you so much.
Elliot, go ahead.
Was Maggie before me? I wasn't sure if she was or not. I have another announcement that I wanted to share with you. So if you didn't notice on our preliminary agenda that we sent out, COVID Recovery Iowa is a organization that reached out to me to basically do virtual counseling on chat or phone call. It was specifically for the stress and anxiety endured by students during the COVID crisis. So they reached out to me and said if I wanted to share that with SGA senators, I would do so, and then with the wider campus community via our agenda. So I'm going to do that. It'll be sent out with the agenda. I'll give it, I think I've already sent it to Lane, but I'll send another one just in case. And the numbers and everything is on there. If you want to wait for the agenda to just come out.
Very good. Any other announcements from you guys? Jordan, go ahead.
Hey, wear a mask, practice social distancing, wash your nasty hands, and also Black Lives Matter.
Very good. Alrighty. Other announcements? Puskazi, go ahead.
So Drake actually pointed this out to me. If you can, you should vote early because come October 24th, if you have not already requested an absentee ballot and you get put into quarantine, there is absolutely no way you can vote. So either make sure you vote before the 24th, or if you are like, I live a wild lifestyle, maybe I'll be in quarantine. You might want to request an absentee ballot because if you are in quarantine October 24th, you cannot vote in the election.
I thought though that if I and don't quote me on this for sure, but I swear that I was in a meeting where they said that if there are students who are in quarantine who have an absentee ballot that needs to get delivered, there would be ways that somebody at the college would help get them out. But I don't know. You may know more about that, Puskazi.
October 24th is the last day you can request an absentee ballot. So if you are thinking like, oh, I can vote like on November 3rd, and then you get put in quarantine like after the 24th, you can't request an absentee ballot and you'll be in quarantine and you won't be able to go vote. If that makes sense.
To my knowledge, don't you have to request and have that absentee ballot sent, or that absentee ballot request sent back by the 24th?
I don't know.
I'm fairly certain. I just requested an absentee ballot, and I think that's what the letter said. So
Well, there you go then. I don't
Yeah.
work for the polls. I just know what I'm told, okay?
Very good. Other announcements from you guys? All right, I think we're gonna kill the cam. Rich, thank you. Good night, everybody on Facebook.